Hello again to this week's edition of Aesthetical Therapy Podcast. My name is Tilman Poschütz, aka Mandy Mozart, and as usual, I'm gonna update you on things that I'm interested in, things I'm working on, and things that I'm planning to do. So, this episode is special because it's going to be a retrospective, or let's say a documentation of a piece or pieces I was doing in Graz for this exhibition called Habitat at the Stadtmuseum Graz Museum. It was curated by Daniela Brasil, who invited me to contribute. And so what I did is I went there 2 days ago and basically just interviewed everyone who was sort of involved or reachable at the moment, and tried to get some impressions of how the exhibition went, took some video, and just collected it here for you. The three people I interviewed were Daniela Brasil, the curator of the show, Caroline Boehm. She's responsible for public relations and communications and education in that sense, like guiding people through the exhibition. And very last was one of the collaborators, Monique Fessel, who contributed her voice for one of the podcasts. Um, just for you, a heads up. So all the three pieces you will be able to listen to individually. I will publish them as a podcast as well in the coming days. So stay updated. The audio piece, the sound installation, I'm not 100% yet sure if I'm going to publish it as a stereo because there's a 6-channel multi-channel installation. You will hear bits and pieces of it under this podcast, but yeah, not sure there yet. The other two podcasts I will definitely upload, and they're called Interview with a Mammoth Tree and Interview with a Crow. I think they're both in German, so Picnic for a Crow, also ein Picknick für eine Krähe, is only audible to you, only comprehensible if you dare to learn German or just like to listen to the sound of our voices. I think that's what podcasts are to me generally. I love to just listen how people go about the flow of consciousness. Anyway, let's start right in. I hope this is enough explanation what's going to happen. So don't be confused. It's rather loose, but enjoy. There's some insights that I find very interesting and that maybe motivate you to still use the time and go to Graz. On another brief note, I want to mention that you can also watch the video to this podcast. There is some visuals and some actual video footage, not through the entire piece, but through most parts. If you want to see parts of the exhibition, that's what you're gonna do. I think you should find them on YouTube or on Spotify if they have video now. Well, you'll definitely find it on my YouTube channel, so check it out. Hello, everyone, for the today's podcast edition. I went to Graz and in the museum of the city, Graz Museum, together with Daniela Brasil, who's the curator for this show called Habitat. She's going to tell us a little bit about the exhibition and how it came about and what it's about, and then we'll circle into the contribution I did and the work we did together for it. And we'll invite you to listen carefully because we have some interesting philosophies on our existence and how we as beings are sort of entangled with it. So Daniela, thanks for taking the time. And I would like you to maybe give us a small introduction to the show. This is your show.
Our show.
Our show.
Our multi-species collaborative show.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in Mandy Mota's channel. He's one of the main artists who is participating at this show I created in the Graz Museum, which is about urban ecologies and multi-species world building. Our museum is dedicated to the city of Graz, and it's a mostly cultural historical museum, but we do have tried in this show to have a lot of collaborative pieces with artists and with different stakeholders of the city, with different communities, with different age groups who created a diverse multi-perspective show. And the exhibition is divided in 7 rooms, and we are now in one room, which we will concentrate our talk today because the exhibition is big and you're mostly invited to come. It will be here until the 26th of February in Graz.
Yeah, and we're also in this room specifically because this was like the central piece of our collaboration, because I was invited to do a piece of the geological layers of the city. And we called this piece Love for Mountains. And I think we'll give a small introduction to this. You want to say something more about the multi-species approach and the workshops that you have been giving? But before,
maybe I can just explain the room.
Yeah, please, yes. Please.
Because the most of the other rooms are given to the contemporary times, or let's say human history time. And this room, now you start the composition from Mandy.
Yeah, you will hear a little bit in the background.
Is dedicated to the time of the earth and the past habitats, to deep geological time, and therefore also dedicated to deep listening. We have an assemblage and a more immersive atmosphere created here, scenographic arrangement, where we have the drawings from André Sandoval, who has drew the mountains and the butterflies. We are now two beautiful.
Yes, now we can show them off.
Local butterflies who do love the stones, the warm stones of Graz. And is representing the local mountain valley, which is also thematized into your work, which is the Plabuch, the Burgkogel, the Schocker, the Schlossberg. We are now sitting here at the Schlossberg, coming from the Paleozoicum.
Maybe some of our listeners will know the Schlossberg from the amazing underground raves they have there, from the Elevate Festival and Domenberg. So Graz is a city of sound for me. But yeah, and who did these? The poetry on the floor. I think
the poetry on the floor is a quotation. It's a transcription of the work from Maya Angelou called "On the Pulse of Morning." We really recommend you listening to her declaring this poetry with the inaugural presidential election, presidential inauguration in 1993. When Bill Clinton entered to power, she read this, which is an amazing, very sensitive poetry with calls about the rights of nature in ancient times as well, to different species and to different human species.
Yeah, and it's representing here the river Graz, sort of shaping the landscape.
Yeah, exactly. We designed the poetry on the floor, which is a flowing river, because the poetry also starts a river, a rock, a tree. A river sings and sing on. A river sang a beautiful song. It's also talking about animistic worldviews, talking how rivers are alive, how the world is an organism. And this part here is, as we are in the deep geological time, the river is wild, has different braces going on. In the other part is it's kind of straight, as humans have corrected the river to go through the city.
The corsage of the city.
Exactly.
So to say.
Here we have it going even on the other side of the Schlossberg, and having is a wild mountain river.
Yeah, I think also in general the room is very wild, because we are confronted here with some of the shareholders. They left the gave us these exponents from the Geological Museum, right?
From the Natural History Museum, from the Ioanneum. So we have the different periods of time, the Paleozoicum, the Miocene, the Holocene, and the Anthropocene, because obviously we are discussing what are the big mass we are creating, or the so-called Anthropocene. And in that vitrine, you have the collection of the city archaeology, the department, which is also part of the museum. From our museum collection, we have Konrad Kreutzer, which is the most important landscape painter of the city, and we have it framed and swimming or schweben or floating into the room. Yeah. And we have also Josef Kusaveg, who with the Mur über Schwemmung, with the floods of the river 1857, which also generated the one of these corrections of the river after the river take over all the city and destroyed historical parts.
Yeah, which I think is sort of interesting, because in the time frame that we are looking at in this room, it's just a tiny moment that something is flooded. It's like, from our research, it's flooded, layered. It's just how time goes, basically. There's two more pieces over there. I think I want to show them to you as well.
Yeah, this is a wonderful work from Maria Tichka Potric. She's also working a lot on the rights of nature, on the personhood of nature, and she's also working for a long time with community building and indigenous worldviews. And the two pieces she has here are also because I wanted to bring this dimension of Graz going beyond the administrative borders. Rivers flow all over the planet, and they flow in the air as they flow on the earth. And these rivers are, one is the Lachlan River in Australia, which she showed in the Biennale of Sydney, and which she collaborated with Elder Ray Woods also to generate the drawings and the texts. And the other is the time of the humans in the Socha River, which is in Slovenia, which she's also from Slovenia. She's based in Ljubljana, but the Socha River is also called Insonso River in Italy, and it's on our border here in Austria. So it gives also open up the dimension to bring a bit of world.
Yeah, where does water go? It basically goes everywhere. It's in us and it's around us. I think the part that interests me now, sort of to reflect, is, you started with the text. Basically, it was our first contact on this. Like, you sent me this beautiful text that you just read out, and from there on, I was kind of imagining something like we did in our previous collaborations, where we just come together and jam. And this time it was a bit different, because, as you see, we're in a different setting, let's say, because Daniela is also working here as a curator. It's not your regular job. It was for the last year and a half, but usually we collaborate in more freestyle, sort of independent productions, and they're more performative with different institutions and different individuals. And this time we had to face another challenge, which is the sort of the flow of the institution, let's say it. And in the beginning, it was a bit frustrating to figure out like what is possible, acoustics, and especially doing an acoustic installation in here, a sound installation. But then over time, like we talked about it earlier, I really appreciated how it sort of everything became kind of temporal. Everything became like the ideas. They're just no small pieces, and they're also just like small grains within this huge layer or flow of no, not say flow. I'm using too much vocabulary. I borrowed from other people.
It's okay.
No, what I mean is, like, I like how these pieces are all. You cannot definitely say, oh, this piece belongs to this. I think it really, like the sound itself, you don't find it you don't know when it starts. So I think this was really something I enjoy after the fact. Before I was a bit like, how can my work work in this very
Yeah, I
chaotic
think you
context.
came also from the imagination of having an art exhibition
Yes,
where you have
yeah.
a free space
Yeah.
with no narration, historical narration.
Yeah.
And you wanted to have the freedom, and also public that is engaged in high technological devices, and it was not the case here.
Yeah.
But I think the exhibition in general, and our collaboration in particular, was a big compromise.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of compromises also help us all to grow beyond our barriers, beyond our own comfort zones, to explore other ways of expressing and coexisting, because in the end,
Yeah, basically it's about coexisting.
because in the end you don't have an open room just for your sound installation. You have to live with dead and alive artists. You have to live with the traces of the stones. You have to live with real interpretations of the stones. With our dear geologists, Bernard Hupman, who is a professor who gave us all the information, also how the city geological formations have evolved through time.
Yeah.
He also gave us the material to the drawings, and the drawings are not what all the scientist imagines, because the artists have the freedom to change, and you also have the freedom to interpret. But I think in this connection with art and science, with getting out of our comfort zones and our imaginations, how we think it becomes this collaborative, beautiful work.
Yeah, and this is interesting that you mentioned that how art is sometimes like collaborating with science, especially in the natural science. I find it always there's like very different expectations, and usually some disappointment, because like there's always this. I've been working on other pieces with physicists and people from other like fields that need art to visualize their concepts and their findings. But artists sort of visualize something else. I think they visualize whatever they research. So they're also researching. I mean, it's a bit used in how to say, inflationary.
Artistic research use other parameters, no? To measure and to express.
Yes, and so like, and we did this. There's these other two pieces, and one of the pieces, it's two podcasts that are running in the other room. And there, I did some interviews with the head of the
the head of the botanical garden,
exactly.
Mr. Christian Berg, where you talk about the sequoia tree, Mammut Baum in German, and with the.
And there the result was really interesting also to see his like he was telling me all these very important facts, and basically I just focus about how that tree is kind of like stolen, or how the seeds from the tree have been kidnapped from China and brought to Graz. So I think like this
to Europe in general.
Yes, to Europe in general. Yeah. So this what we pick is kind of very specific in the.
But also you're creating a narrative. You're giving voice to a tree, which is already very okay. We have to explain that there are two interviews. Two podcasts in the other room are not.
But we will talk about them on a later point. But basically, just I just wanted to make this bridge between like, okay, there is scientific research here, but there's also this strong focus on an artistic expression, and I think this is where this exhibition is interesting to me, is because also we were trying to bridge between different species, and for example, animals or stones, they don't have a voice in our shared language. Like they don't speak English, French, Portuguese, or whatever you want to speak. But they are there, and they also that they affect how we speak. They affect the language that we need to speak, and maybe the sensibility. Also was interesting for me to like not put too much voice into this. Like in the beginning, I was against any narration to the piece. I wanted to like, okay, I measured, I used this technique to get sound out of the geological layers and then transform them into pure acoustic signal, and not want to explain it. I don't want to say this is Anthropocene stone, it met a mammoth it's open to interpretation. I think that's the beauty of the exhibition. It's like you don't know exactly.
Yeah, and I think this was a bit also in the curatorial process with the institution difficult also to make it acceptable or usable, that makeable, that we have a sound piece that is not announced or clearly explicitly presented as a narrative and
not like your BBC The Wonders of the World. You're now entering the Anthropocene, an age of machines, robots, and nuclear science.
Yeah, no, exactly, and it's not. There was this need, and there is a need because it's a cultural historical museum to have things explained. But we agreed that people enter this room, and now we have silence, and we have silence for 15 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and you have a piece which takes also, but it's not written on the entrance every 10 minutes or in many museums and institutions, this is the case. We opted not to have it, and it's a surprise element because it's an immersive.
But there was conflict against it in the beginning, and people were like, "Oh, but then the sound comes and it's going to distract us." And then you said before there was like certain other reactions that now it's kind of missing when it's not there.
Yeah, it's interesting exactly because people were afraid this is going to interfere in the reading. People are reading information. There is a guided tour, and people have to be listening to what the art education department is transmitting, or the director is telling, or I am telling as a curator. But I think this feeling of being interrupted or distracted also helped a lot because our goal, and in our collaboration, we talked a lot about what is really deep listening, what is really being start to feel something.
Yeah.
And this subwoofer that we cannot transmit now.
Oh, we'll add some in the edit, so you can put on the headphones.
You feel on your guts, and this is the guts when it trembles, it totally changes your perception, and this is what it's about. It's not to be announced. Now you're going to feel something. Yeah. Because this totally changes how sensation travels through your body, right? So if it's unawaited stimulation, it becomes perceived otherwise. And funny enough, that the whole staff of the museum that is living this exhibition for the past month now cannot imagine this room without the piece. And now I think the time has reduced. It was 15 minutes in the beginning. Now it's 5, as we just mentioned.
Yeah. Apparently it's even shorter. It was half an hour in the very beginning.
Before they said, no, we need half an hour silence. No, okay, 15 minutes silence. And now it's like maybe 5 because people got so in love with the piece. It's called Love for Mountains, right?
Yes, true.
Nobody who is here activating this exhibition can live without the piece anymore. It became really vital. It gives life to this exhibition.
Well, that's really good feedback, and I really appreciate that it's starting to be on infinite repeat.
Yeah.
So I was proposing in the very beginning, to just continuously loop it through.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to see how the process.
I like the silence.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the silence.
Yeah.
Because when you want to transmit content and you feel like you're competitive all the time.
True.
So I also wanted the loop, but I agree the silence is good, and this alternation.
Yeah.
And the alternative, if you want to listen to a narration, you can listen.
Yep. You have.
And do you know, in the beginning we had a headphone. And then we realized the headphone is not correct, because when you hear this, you don't hear the sound.
Yeah.
So we changed it for this one, because you keep hearing the sound and you hear the narration as one side.
One channel. It's interesting too, because I suggested not to put it on top, because in the beginning the question was, we need a narration, and it should be on top of it. And it was like in the space. So I was like, okay, let's enclose it somewhere. So I think this is a good middle ground. And as I mentioned before, also, when you walk into the room, sometimes you hear these small speakers from afar, very like somebody's whispering, some mystical creature is like hiding behind somewhere in the stones or in the mountains. So I find it actually quite quite nice now. Yeah.
The
And
chalk
the
layers,
narration
with
is
their
officially
echoes of ancient
authorized
oceans
by
teeming with
some
life,
AI. I put
resonate
in
with a
a
deep,
bunch of
sonorous
keywords
drone,
and said
akin to the
scientific
voices of
announcement.
whales and the chorus of coral
And yeah,
reefs.
that's how that came about.
And it
So the
sounds like
science
this.
on this
A
is
deep,
also
resonant
poetic, I guess.
drone fills the
So the
air,
machine did some poetry
reminiscent
here
of the
too.
vast
Yeah,
expanse of an
these are
ancient
beautiful,
ocean,
and we do believe
punctuated by the gentle hum
No, but
of
you
coral
did
reefs.
a comparison, or you started with the principle of Peter and the Wolf from Prokofiev.
Yes, true.
You forgot that part.
Oh, yeah, it's true. We forgot.
So this you did this sonic system. How do you call it?
So the process behind the sound itself and the installation is referencing to a technique that is used in by geologists to display the layers of the earth. I think they can go up to down to 500 meters or to 1 kilometer by putting fiber optic cables on the ground, on the ground level, and then detonate these explosions. And from the resonance, the light is disturbed in the fiber optic cable, and that signal is transferred into an image. So the sound is transformed into light vibrations, then turned into an image. And then I use these images to turn it back into sound and to kind of, and then narrate it basically like a story, introducing each of these elements and these layers that we stumbled upon in the scans. So it's kind of like a CAT scan of the earth with a very abstract sonic media back and forth translation process. I think that's the most interesting for me in this exhibition. Also, this one piece in the other room where you have this wall of the forest speaking, where there was a debate about whether to translate everything or leave some words untranslated. I think that's a very good discussion in general, to have these reinterpretations of the same thing going back and forth, and then just sometimes not knowing exactly, but feeling it in your gut, what it could mean, and also be sensitive about it. Like, okay, something is there, I do not understand, but maybe I'll take some time to understand. I think that's the metaphor that in the end plays through the whole piece.
Yeah, but I think also this exercise of giving voice, and voice, we don't say necessarily language, human language, but giving our stage, make what is we, let's say we humans, but not all humans don't, because some humans do know how to listen to trees, do know how to listen to stones, do know how to they are also related, they are relatives. There's Mr. Ray Woods, who collaborated with Marietička Potrić. He talks, he can listen, he knows how to, but we civilized, so-called civilized human, part of the humankind that are not familiar with these other languages, so that we try the exercise of trying to give voices or make them audible. And what is beautiful about this technique, like you try through some metaphors, to some synthetic, electronic
I think, but this is the gate. But this is the gate to get people in, because as you said, some people, we lost a lot this ability to listen to what surrounds us, the immediate surrounding. We are relying on measuring devices.
Exactly.
And which is part of the Anthropocene dilemma, I guess. We're trying to abstract everything and then understand it from a meta perspective. So for us, it was a choice to like invite people back in. Okay, there's digitally produced audio, and this is something I can relate to. I know this noise from my phone or my washing machine, and then so we kind of translated back to something.
Yeah, but the composition becomes the aesthetic sensitive combination of all this.
So the synthesizer here sounds like a frog. That's a simple example, but
Yeah, I
But
guess that gets the point.
Magic back. I think we became these wonderful butterflies today. Also
Out of synthetic materials.
Out of synthetic, upcycled.
Yes.
Partly upcycled materials. But we learned. There is one of the books which is in the library. It's called Making Belonging in a World of Relations, and there is a beautiful text by David Abraham. I don't know if you're familiar with his. He has a few famous by one book he published, Becoming Animal, and this essay that
sounds good. Sounds something for me.
The book I'm reading with my students now is also mentioning that we relate on these navigation devices, on this kind of apparatus to make us move through the earth and read the earth. And he's mentioning the monarch butterflies in the Turtle Island or the North American continent who managed to travel enormous distances, but over generations. It's not that one butterfly migrates from north to south in one generation. It's like needs
so they sent the whole species.
The species go like generation after generation, make the whole arch and come back. And the discussion is like, how can they find a way, especially that we are destroying the natural environment. So the natural spaces are kind of islands cut by highways and cities and things. But still they can find their way through 4 generations. And this is like some scientists is discussing, okay, they have some kind of sensors that measure the light, so that's how they find the angle of the sun to find the direction, and then they come, no, this is not possible because 3 or 4 generations go north and 3 or 4 generations come south, so this north and south thing would be that, then it's on the other wing.
Yeah, but
it's also not possible for our being, but they are still moving. Because there's other sensorials, there are other movements we could call magic, or we are not able to understand.
And it's within our DNA, and it's within the materials around us. And I mean, like we have this debate always about like this is an esoteric approach, but then again, this generation of people, it takes them time to realize things. And yes, we found out information can be stored across generations in the genes. And the gene is basically a big
kind of information that we cannot sense.
Yeah. And so, but we can learn.
We cannot measure.
Not
in our scientific devices.
I think we need to measure it in our scientific mindset to allow us to accept something. But I think I want to circle back to and invite everyone who has the chance to come to Graz until the 25th of February. It's 26th?
The last Sunday, February.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Last Sunday, February, you can come to Graz Museum, Habitat Graz exhibition in the Sackgasse. It's really in the heart of the city, and you can take. Also, we have a Schlossberg Graz Museum, which is like here on the top of this mountain. And we're happy to welcome you here.
Yes, and I thank you once again for having me in the show. And I had a great experience. And let's see where the sound travels. I will put the audio somewhere on this post. We'll figure it out. And thank you all for listening. And please share your views with us or make your own channels and share your views. I think it's very important if you're interested in any sort of these topics to communicate them more, especially when you're having some connections to people that lost touch. I think that's very important for me right now politically. We need to become mediators, become the birds. So we learn a lot from educating in this museum. We educate each other now. That's my conclusion, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hallo. And here we are to the second part of the podcast. And again with me, another butterfly.
Hello.
Hello.
We are flying with our
Yeah.
we are flying with our friends.
The cocoons now and the butterflies are all over the place. We are now in the Wunderkammer, another part of the exhibition.
Chamber of Wonders.
Chamber of Wonders, yes. And
Wonder Chamber.
Wonder Chamber. Wonderful chamber.
Yeah.
So why we are here is obviously we're not going to show you the whole exhibition because you can come here and then pay some entrance. It's a paywall, classical paywall. But we have two more pieces here where also Yuri, who's behind the camera, thank you, Yuri, for doing this, participated in producing. We did some crow research and mammoth tree research. So where we tried to...
Sequoia tree in English.
Sequoia tree, long, big tree. And the attempt here in these podcasts was to personify these or give them a voice through our artistic interpretation in form of a story, a small story. So they're interviews, fictional interviews based upon some research that we did beforehand. Yes, and maybe Daniela can introduce us to the context of the room, why they ended up here in the corner.
As we told you, there are 7 rooms to the exhibition, and these 2 last rooms are called the Gallery of City Inhabitants, which is the easy name for it for the general public. Originally, it was thought of the multi-species relational archive, but it became this and became, in fact, this student cabinet and the Wunderkammer became like this critique of the origin of the museum, which was originated often in overseen contexts of colonial injustice, we could say, and how science was, is always positive and negative from all sides. We can see histories
like extreme collecting habits of
exactly.
The oligarchs.
Exactly. So this one is like the Wonder Chamber, and it's the constructive way or diffractive way, we could say, of collecting knowledge and representations, not the traditional museographic and natural history collection modes. We do have traditional collections, as I said, as in the other room from the UNEOM Natural History Museum, but we also have the drawings again from Andres. We have realistic objects from the Naturschutzbund. This is the Ruche, the very big fish from the Moor River. We have drawings from the participants. We have an altar for collected through participation. We have works from other artists and from the university. And the idea was to do some site-specific research. And Mandy was invited to work with the area of the Puchstrasse and the garbage deposit.
Yes, so it's
and with the south of Graz, which is a very important area for the city, and with the botanical garden, with the director from the botanical garden about neophyte trees that have been traveling through the world.
Yeah, and these stories are super interesting, and you should, I invited also Monique Fessel to help out on the narration. And then there's already people getting bored. So apparently tells me we have to jump to this. I will attach the links to the podcast so you can listen to them in full length, or you come here to the museum and see our great installation at the trash construction site. We tried to feed or like to do a picnic for the crows. They were very skeptical. We were hunting for a few days and not so successful. So nevertheless,
I think the crowds, they do get enough food, especially from the garbage deposit. There is a big colony living there, and they prefer rather to hunt and find their own stuff than get served by humans.
Yeah, well, we tried champagne, it didn't work. So, I think that wraps it up for this part. And
Hi.
Hi. Danke, dass du dir Zeit nimmst für kurze Rückfrage, Retrospektive. Du hast jetzt quasi das Vergnügen gehabt, hoffe ich.
Ja.
Ein Jahr lang quasi Schülerinnengruppen oder sozusagen, kannst du gleich nochmal kurz erzählen, wie du da so durchgeleitet hast durch die Ausstellung. Und mich interessiert natürlich, wie sind die auf die Stücke, die da ich mit Daniela zusammen gemacht habe, abgegangen? Oder was ist dir aufgefallen? So, weil das so einfach so ein Feedback.
Ähm, Die Stücke waren ja so in der Mitte der Ausstellung zu finden. Ich habe vor allem junge Jugendliche und Kinder durch die Ausstellung begleitet oder geführt. Als sie zu deinen Stücken gekommen sind, hatten sie also schon eine Menge gesehen und erlebt. Sie waren in der kartografischen Werkstatt, haben geeignete Habitate für kleine Tiere gesucht, die sie mit dabei hatten.
Was haben die für Tiere mitgehabt?
Also Schleichtiere, Plastiktiere.
Okay.
Genau.
Im ganzen Haus, die ganze Zeit, man darf nicht irgendwie organische Sachen und dann bringen alle Tiere mit. Das finde ich cool. Okay, Schleichtiere.
Ja, sie haben also quasi so nichtmenschliche Lebensräume in der Stadt kennengelernt, verschiedenster Art, vom Autoreifen bis zum Hornissennest.
Ja.
Und sind dann in diesen Raum gekommen, wo es auch um leichte Ablenkung.
Ist okay. Lass dich nicht verirren von denen.
Als die Kinder in den Raum mit deiner Soundinstallation gekommen sind, sind sie zu ganz unterschiedlichen Momenten in dieser Symphonie, sag ich mal, in dieser Symphonie reingekommen. Mal haben sie so gesagt, da ist irgendwas, man hört schon was.
Cool.
Was ist das? War ganz oft die Frage. Und dann habe ich gesagt, das ist ein Klang, der zeigt quasi, der versucht, ein Gefühl dafür zu erzeugen, was hier mal vor langer, langer Zeit war, vor Millionen von Jahren.
Du ausdrückst, ja.
Und manche haben es natürlich auch einfach so erlebt, weil sie auch teilweise einfach so in den Raum reingepurzelt sind. Und tatsächlich haben sich die Kinder reihenweise auch auf den Boden gelegt, wie es ja von dir auch
bei der Pressekonferenz demonstriert wurde.
richtig, genau.
Aber das hast du nicht denen angeboten.
Ich habe gesagt, ihr könnt euch hier gerne auf dem Boden liegen, macht es euch gemütlich. Manche haben sich hingesetzt, manche haben es sofort angenommen, das Angebot, und sich da wirklich auf den Holzboden hingefläzt, ja.
Cool.
Und ich fand spannend zu sehen, wie stark viele Kinder und Jugendliche sich tatsächlich einfach darauf eingelassen haben und das so genutzt haben. Und auch, obwohl sie in diesem Klassenverband da waren, was ja schon auch viel so Gruppendynamiken mit sich bringt, die nicht immer so angenehm sind, dass sie da echt teilweise sehr, sehr gut loslassen konnten, die Augen geschlossen haben und wirklich so diesen Klang haben auf sich wirken lassen.
Das ist cool zu hören. Das ist ja eigentlich genau diesen Moment, den wir versucht haben, irgendwie zu konstruieren.
In dem Raum gab es ja auch so versteinerte Meereslebewesen, also zum Beispiel 15 Millionen Jahre alte Muscheln. Und in der Ergänzung hat es, glaube ich, sehr gut funktioniert, dass es tatsächlich so ein Nachdenken über das Urzeitliche oder das Unbekannte hervorgerufen hat, als ich gefragt habe, was habt ihr denn so gesehen?
Was mit Sternen gemeint, oder?
Ich habe so nach den inneren Bildern der Kinder gefragt. Wenn ich so gemerkt habe, die haben sich jetzt echt drauf eingelassen, hatten vielleicht die Augen zu, habe ich gefragt, was habt ihr gesehen? Und vor eurem inneren Auge. Und da wurde mehrmals sowas wie so ein Sternenhagel, so ein Flug durchs Weltall vielleicht auch beschrieben. Viele haben auch so also so mechanische Bilder vor sich gehabt, von so verschiedensten Maschinen, die ich auch nicht immer ganz verstanden habe, was sie da gemeint haben.
Das ist cool. Das nächste Mal mit Überwachungskamera.
Ja, genau. Und cool war auch, oder interessant war, dass es gar nicht jetzt so Fragen hervorgerufen hat, sondern es wurde einfach so sehr angenommen.
Das finde ich gut, sehr gut. Cool, ja, dann danke ich dir vielmals fürs Mini-Feedback.
Ja.
Und hoffe, das in die nächste Arbeit noch besser einzubauen.
Gut.
Und ja, danke dir.
Ja, danke dir für die tolle Soundinstallation.
Danke. Hi Monique.
Hey.
Cool, dass du kurz einen neuen Zeit nimmst. Ich wollte den Leuten gerne mal vorstellen, dass wir hier so ein Hörspiel gemacht haben in Graz im Museum. Und genau, also sag mal Hallo.
Hallo, Monique spricht hier und ja, ich habe das sehr lustig gefunden, dieses Interview with a Crow damals mit dir, Tillmann. Es war sehr spontan und ist uns sehr schnell von der Hand gegangen, kann man sagen.
Genauso schnell wie dieses Interview jetzt von der Hand geht.
Genauso, ja.
Und wir haben uns jetzt überlegt, ihr könnt euch das dann gerne unten drunter anhören, den Link, wir stellen es rein. Ihr könnt aber auch gerne ins Museum kommen in Graz zum Anhören. Und wir reacten jetzt einfach mal ein bisschen dazu, weil hi, liebe Army, jetzt geht's schon los.
Ja.
Und wie ihr ja wisst, dreht sich in meinem Kanal
What the fuck, was ist da los?
alles
Nur
um
Soundeffekte
Crime,
eingebaut.
feine Küche und Lifestyle.
Verstehe.
Ich habe mir diesmal etwas ganz Tolles ausgedacht.
Smooth
Das
Stimme,
habt
ja,
ihr
so
auch
eine
in den
smooth Stimme.
Reaktionen vielleicht schon geahnt.
Du bist nicht so, sonst
Aufmerksam.
nicht so die Influencerin, ne, eigentlich?
Also die
Ja, also ich bin schon, aber das weiß halt niemand leider.
Ein Introfluencer.
Ein schönes viktorianisches Picknick. Und lade mir spannende
Ach
Gäste.
so, genau,
mit
das war der
einer
Plot. Du bist so
Mordgeschichte
Picknickerin, so
ein.
Influence-Picknickerin.
Ja, ich bin ja nicht.
Ich glaube, mich mit Küche oder so.
Ah, es ging irgendwie um Essen.
Ja.
Und aus diesem Grunde habe ich heute eine Gästin aus einer Mörderbande eingeladen.
ist brutal,
Ja,
brutal.
ihr habt richtig gehört. Und jetzt könnt ihr mir im Chat dreimal.
Oh, geht schon los, geht schon los. Der Chat
dreimal
explodiert.
zuraten,
Glück, 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 Glück.
welche Bande
Ja.
ich meine.
Können wir einfach drüber reden?
Ja,
Oder?
ja, wir können einfach voll drüber reden.
Aber dann hören ja
Wenn ihr
die
glaubt, das ist die
Zuhörerinnen.
Nee,
Hören
nee, das können Sie ja separat anhören. Das ist
Ah.
eine Idee.
gar nicht.
Diese Reaction-Videos ist ja, unsere Gelaber ist ja wichtiger als der Content, über den wir reden.
Ja,
Ich
also
bin
ich als
allerdings auch nicht
interner
besonders,
Influencerin
also
sollte
ich
das
stelle
ja
sie euch
wissen,
hier einfach
Genau.
aber ich stelle mich manchmal so wie, ja, ich weiß ja von nichts und so.
Yeah, hallo Gregor.
Nein,
Schön,
der
dass du
Content
da bist.
unten drunter. Hauptsache, man kriegt ein bisschen was mit, auf das man
Und,
reagieren kann.
Voll toll, dass du meiner Einladung
Voll
gefolgt
toll,
bist.
ja.
Ja, du warst ja der Rabe und das habe ich sehr gerne mögen, weil wir haben ja wir haben ja mehr Raben in Graz als Menschen.
Ja,
Ja.
glaube ich auch. Die haben auch
Weil,
ein bisschen
du
mehr
weißt, es geht hier um
Prägnanz.
ein
Also es ist irgendwie
Picknick-Experiment.
wichtiger.
Kurz an euch. Ihr wisst
Wobei
ja
nicht
vielleicht,
wichtig, in der
das
Ausstellung
Picknick
geht's angeblich
wurde
um
im viktorianischen
Koexistenz.
England erfunden, weil
Stimmt,
die Leute
ja.
in der Industrialisierung der Natur am Wochenende ein bisschen näher sein wollten. Und die waren dann so mega schick gekleidet.
Ich finde es eigentlich
mit
so
leckerem
entspannt. Das
Essen
könnte ich mir als
Körben.
ASMR-Video auch
Einfach ein
vorstellen. Seine
bisschen
Stimme so,
raus und die
hey,
Wiese
hi,
genießen,
entspannt euch
bisschen
mal.
plaudern,
Du meinst
dies und
meine,
jenes.
Ja, der Charlotte,
quasi so ein
also
bisschen
also die
wie
Influencerin, ja.
heutzutage. Einfach junge, hübsche Menschen.
Wobei ich den Raben
aus einer sich
auch echt
langsam
sehr cool
etablierten
gefunden. Es war sehr
Den zum
real.
Einschlafen.
mit den besten
Ja, ja, voll.
Kleidern, ein bisschen philosophieren, plaudern, einfach mal Fun haben draußen.
Wobei die Raben bei uns in Graz, ich weiß ja nicht, wie das woanders ist, gell, aber bei uns haben die Raben Prime Time so um 6, 7 Uhr herum.
Ja.
Da gibt es so Plätze in der Stadt, unter anderem Griesplatz, auch neu.
Ja, echt neu.
Und da sind irgendwie so 20 Minuten, wo die so laut sind, dass kaum was anderes zu hören ist. Wirklich. Und es sind Hunderte.
So, jetzt kommen wir zu dir, liebe Dries. So geil,
Ja,
dass ihr
die, ich finde ja, da habe ich ja versucht, da bin ich mal mit einer Drohne durchgeflogen, durch so einen Schwarm da hinten.
Echt, oder?
Ja, also nicht durch, sondern so drüber, aber so richtig gestört hat sie nicht. Aber sie haben jetzt auch nicht...
Und das war aber Akatrone in Form eines Raben zum Beispiel.
Und das wäre natürlich der Trick gewesen. Aber ich glaube, da kommen die Ex-Fix dahinter. So, na,
Also ehrlich gesagt,
na,
ich habe mir das
funktioniert
jetzt nicht
nicht.
so genau überlegt, darum ging es mir auch nicht. Also ich wollte mal so
Was wolltest du?
sehen, wie ihr so von Baum zu Baum springt, irgendwie sowas in der Art.
Nee, was erzählst
Ja, okay, gut, klar. Also wer es nicht checkt, kennt mich wohl nicht gut genug. Also ich bin kein Mörder.
Ja,
Aber die klären immer noch diesen
wobei das ja eigentlich alle Mörder
Missverständnis.
sagen. So, also,
Okay, gut, ja, klar. Ich nehme jetzt erstmal eine Birne hier.
ja, und?
Boah, urabgelenkt vom eigentlichen Thema, der fucking Essen einfach.
Schmeckt's dir?
Ja.
Findest du es lecker? Haben wir dir genug angeboten?
Also, ich glaube, ich habe dich da zum Picknick eingeladen, oder? Und
Nee,
du
soll
warst
ja auch
irgendwie
nicht
so
bezahlt haben,
medium
weil die Army
zufrieden, manchmal
bezahlt.
schon, aber ein
By the
bisschen
way. Ich möchte ja nicht damit prahlen, aber
unzufrieden
it's like that.
warst du dann doch, oder?
That's what I am, so. Also ich wollte ja auch früher keine Anklage machen gegen dich oder deine Crow.
Ja, ich war so ein bisschen Token, ne? Du hast mich so ein bisschen
Aber
als
mich würde
Token
es schon
eingeladen.
interessieren, wie das
Ja.
so ist bei euch. Also ich finde, das
Ein
könnte schon
Croken.
ein wenig trotzig wirken, wenn ihr da immer so irgendwie schräg drauf
Ach so,
seid.
bist so ein bisschen so, das nervt dich eigentlich bei deinem Tagesablauf. Ja, okay.
Ja, ihr von,
Ist klar.
keine Ahnung, ihr scheißt ständig alles.
Ja, also ich war schon eher auf,
Tollen Autos.
ja, jetzt
müssen
kommt's
wir jeden
on
Tag
irgendwie so
abwaschen.
halt, gell.
Aber so jetzt privat,
geht so
jetzt nicht als
jetzt, wie
Lotti,
von
da
eurer Kirche.
kommst du d'accord mit die Crows oder ist eher die
Ja, ich mag sie.
vermischt?
Wir sind als erstes
Was, kennst du welche persönlich?
Ordnungsgesetze
Ja,
angepasst
also
werden.
es kommt jetzt
Das
immer
wäre so,
einer,
öfter nicht
der schaut immer
davor.
gleich aus, also wird es einer sein, regelmäßig auf meinem Balkon.
Oft beschuldigt, dass mir
Und ich
Mülltonnen
forciere es
mit
auch, ich lege ihm manchmal so eine Walnuss hin und so.
Valium gibst du dem.
Ja, cool. Walnuss.
Walnuss, okay.
Und einmal habe ich einen Kuchen von meiner Mutter, meine Mutter hat mir einen Kuchen mitgegeben und ich sitze am Balkon, isst den Kuchen, stehe kurz auf, gehe in die Wohnung, komme am Balkon zurück, Kuchen weg. So schaut's aus bei uns.
Okay, also das heißt aber, das war jetzt nicht für ihn gekocht, sondern
Ja, indirekt schon,
indirekt.
aber das hatte man vorher nicht gewusst.
Er hat sich quasi das schon mal, hat er für mich gedacht. Ja, das ist so. Aber das ist gut, das heißt, du hast einen persönlichen Freund im Crow.
Ja.
Ich habe ja auch eine vom Haus.
Wirklich?
Im Jahr gegenüber.
Und erkennst du ihn auch?
Ja, hier kenne ich. Also fix. Und er schaut auch immer. Und dann manchmal bringt er Freunde vorbei.
Also es gibt schon so
Und eine Hose hängt da, aber ich weiß nicht, ob die jetzt mit ihm was zu tun hat.
Aha.
Aber es ist eine schwarze Hose, es kann.
so wie wir so ein bisschen ausgestoßen lassen.
Naja, wenn sie passt, gell.
Einmal erst als
Farblich.
Relegation da drüben der Puchstraße zum Beispiel. Nicht in der Innenstadt, das kann man vergessen. Der wird mit Besen, mit Hebebühnen weggeschlagen.
Wo kommen diese Fantasien her? Also alles, das ist ja.
Also ist dir das als Rabe passiert, dass du in der Innenstadt mit dem Besen weggeschlagen
Ich bin
wurdest?
ja kein Rabe eigentlich, aber ich habe das nur gehört in der Zeitung, dass sie gelesen haben, dass sie so eine Hebebühne haben und eben da hochfahren und tatsächlich ist es billiger als. Es gibt noch so einen anderen Trick, das habe ich gesehen. Man kann mit
Würde ich jetzt
mit
nicht sagen,
mit
es
mit
ist toll,
so
aber was sollen
wie
wir
heißen
denn
diese
sonst
so
machen
Zuchtvögel, diese Adler und so Dinger oder diese Habichte, die man so trainieren kann.
Okay.
Falkner-Menschen, die kann man auch anstellen und die können dann auch die Krähen vertreiben. Also machen
Wirklich?
ganz viele Gemeinden. Da
das klingt
so
interessant.
Burgerheide oder so, die haben dann teilweise, oder irgendwelche Städte in Norddeutschland, die haben dann so 7 FalknerInnen angestellt, die gehen dann hin und vertreiben die Krähen zu gewissen Tageszeiten. Und eben in Graz sind sie auf die glorreiche Idee, es mit einer Hebebühne und Besen zu machen.
Aha.
Das ist alles so mal eine Kostenfrage.
Nicht noch mehr von dem.
Aber ich stelle mir jetzt Falkner nicht teurer vor als Hebebühnen, mit denen man irgendwo hinfahren muss, oder?
Ja, hier haben sie es noch nicht ausprobiert mit Falken. Das ist ja, da fehlt so ein bisschen das internationale
Die Anbindung von
Ja.
Graz.
Die Foren, die Internetforen oder die International Crow Scarecrow Conference.
Ah ja. Ey, gute Idee eigentlich. Ja.
So,
Können wir uns einsetzen für.
Sag mal, ich weiß nicht, 200 € fürs Ticket? Dann könnt ihr Crow Scare Conference vorbeikommen.
Ja.
Und dann gibt es alle Tipps.
Ja. Und wir können auch
Es wurden einige
Ausbildung als Falknerin anbieten.
Ja. Plus zusätzlich können wir noch Krähen aussetzen in den Städten, wo wir gerne mehr Tickets verkaufen wollen.
Nicht mal.
Also Leute, der Aufruf nach außen,
Sehr Thema, oder?
schickt uns eure Krähen.
Also, es hat eine Konsequenz.
Wir haben einen Job für die.
Die Menschen sind schon ganz schön naiv manchmal.
Bisschen ein paar
ne?
Nüsse.
Sie haben so gedacht, dass sie das gegenseitig sehen, dass so die eine Nachbarin der anderen Nachbarin.
Jetzt ist eine alte Frau.
I like it. Ey, ich nehme mir gleich auch eine Birne.
Ah, wir
Die
haben
Birnen
da
billigen.
ja irgendwie so Champagner getrunken zum Picknick, oder?
Ja, ein bisschen besoffen werden sie.
Wieso hast du, ja?
Ja, das ist schon komplett alkoholisiert. Ja.
Ja.
Der hast noch Fragen?
Nein.
Sonst würde ich ihn auch
Wir haben es geschafft. Super, ist durch. Ja, also ich weiß nicht, ob ihr euch das anhören müsst, das Hörspiel. Das könnt ihr aber trotzdem machen, also wir würden uns freuen.
Ja, also ich finde es ja schon echt sehr nett beflügelnd, gell?
Was geflügelt?
Beflügelnd.
Beflügelnd.
Im wahrsten Sinne
Ja,
des
das ist gut. Das ist ein gutes Schlusswort. Die Lotti redet noch aus.
Aber,
Und cool.
warum
Danke,
nicht
Monique,
immer das
übrigens,
kleine
dass du
schwarze
mitgemacht hast. Hat mich mega gefreut.
Ja, hat mich auch voll gefreut. Danke.
Und ich hoffe, wir kommen bald mal wieder zu irgend sowas zusammen. Das ist
Ja.
lustig. Das ist
See
so auch
you,
gerade so
euer Sherry Latte.
spontan zwischendurch. Ich finde, das sind wirklich die besten Arbeiten noch.
Ja,
Nicht so verkopft.
genau. Und funktioniert mit dir auch sehr gut spontan.
Ja.
Finde
Also,
ich, ja.
Jetzt war es schon ein bisschen verkopft. Ich habe schon irgendwie 2 Wochen vorher das Skript irgendwie und Research. Aber sehr
Stimmt.
auch entspannt halt mit Danielas Sohn.
Dieses Ding nennt
Ja.
sich Soundbowl of
Ah, es gibt noch Werbung.
Garden.
Super, ja.
Ah,
Bei
vom
einem meiner
Soundbowl,
Friends
ja,
entdeckt
genau.
Und ich war super happy. Das Ding entspannt euren gesamten Body von Kopf
Ja,
bis
das wollen wir
Fuß.
jetzt.
Ihr werdet es lieben.
Ja, ich habe viele Bestellungen
Ich bin
damals
überzeugt.
bekommen. Ja,
Ihr
von,
Siehst du, aber kein Profit Share, ne? Typisch. Na gut.
ja, sorry.
Also danke dir. Ciao.
Ciao.